expected or otherwise, the impact of the nationwide protests embarked upon by some youths over economic hardship is beginning to dawn on us. According to economic experts, the country's economy may have lost about 500 billion naira on the first day of the protests in all key sectors, as businesses were not able to open for fear of attacks. However, some governors like Lucky Aiyedatiwa of Ondo State and Aisen Alia of Benue State commended residents of their states for not joining the protests. Meanwhile, Igbo must go call triggered in the midst of the protests is being condemned by leaders like Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor of Lagos State, and the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Jide, let's take it one by one. Now, looking at the impacts, 500 billion naira for day one alone, and looking at the impact of this thing, you know, it was said that the governor tried everything, the government tried everything to appeal to the youths to shelve this action, but they went ahead, and yesterday, everybody saw what happened. First day.
Okay. Let me start by saying I would rather call this day of protest rather than say day one, because we have seen today that our people have remained indoors. I think the only report that we got was in one Abuja, local government,
Lagos,
people trying to protest.
The traction.
In Lagos, they were chased away.
The momentum.
So the momentum is gone. Largely, this protest that at least you could see that a quarter of the states in our country did not partake in it at all. The entire Southeast, Enugu state, people were going about, you know. In those states, they didn't think they should protest. They were not bothered.
What's nothing, but people sat down at home.
Yes, but sitting at home was just a preemptive step by some people. But they didn't practically protest. Because if they wanted to protest, they would have been marching through the streets. You know, so, yes, they chose to. The point that I'm making is we saw in the Southeast, for example, they didn't protest. Ekiti State, they didn't protest. Ondo State, they didn't protest. Kogi State, they didn't protest. Benue State, they didn't protest. It's not as if there is no hardship in those places. But what this suggests is that they must have believed that that is the solution to the problem. They must have believed that it could be hijacked, which will endanger their own lives. We've seen 16 persons already dead.
16?
Yes, 16. And some of those who died were not even partakers in the protest. Some of the people who died in Borno State, for example, were just bystanders. Were lucky to lose their lives. We said at the time that there is no guarantee that you can do a protest in our country that will not lead to loss of lives, that will not lead to destruction of public property, that will not lead to looting of private people's property. We won't. But we kept being told, look, protest is an inalienable right of the people. Okay, if you want to protest, what is wrong in localizing yourself in one place? Tahrir Square in Egypt. They protested there. Yes, they protested there and succeeded in bringing down a president who had been in office for decades.
They didn't go home.
They didn't go home, they remained there. Some of them were as old as 90 years, Ayo. So where did we get this feeling that until we stop people from moving about on the roads, until we irresponsibly block roads and stop people from moving, that we cannot do a protest? When we had the Ojota protest, the other in 2012, were roads blocked? I mean, if people cannot organize protests in a manner that will not lead to loss of lives, if you cannot organize protests in a manner that does not inconvenience people who are not prepared to join you in the protest, then They have to be made to account for what has happened. Look at Kano. Look at that beautiful facility that Bosun Tijani and his people put together. The only thing they didn't loot there, Ayo, the only thing standing that they didn't loot was the standby generator, and it's because they couldn't carry it. Are you going to put a giant Meccano generator on your head? Are you a human forklift? Or will you go to Dangote to hire some of those cranes that they used to build their gigantic refinery? You know, so people died. I saw people stealing cement bags. What are you going to do with cement bag that you have stolen?
Someone that is hungry.
So you want to drink garri with cement bag? What is the meaning of that? And so more than 300 people arrested in Kano alone. And some of the things that they stole have already been collected from them. Groundnut oil, foodstuff, you know, fans, air conditioner. They were just stealing everything. One evidently crazed individual was using
like two of them
was using cutlass to cut traffic lights. You went.
The other one was
they went to in Katsina. They went to the house of the former president.
Yeah.
It was the soldiers that repelled them. It was the same anger that they took to the emir of Daura's office. I mean, palace.
They went to government house in Jigawa.
You know, the Kano. They were stopped. Look at the video from Kano. They stopped them. They also wanted to overrun the government house in Kaduna. When we say these things, you can see the beginning. You can know what the beginning will look like. But you will never be able to predict the eventual outcome. This is the point that we are making. When all these analysts and their lawyer friends come on TV to talk about the rights to protest, they never talk about Section 45 and Section 46. These are lawyers who, because you must be a responsible citizen first and foremost. And there are responsibilities that you as a citizen must take seriously.
I listened to Pastor Chris Oyakilome yesterday, one of the statements. He was just saying that, look, nobody is saying that you should not protest, but don't destroy your property. Don't destroy the country's property. And people went ahead, they still targeted those properties, and they still destroyed it.
Okay, anyway, first, let me be specific. Let me state this clearly, that an hungry man is an angry man. With the level of illiteracy in our community, people a lot of times do not even know how to go about their anger. And you know the rule of attribution. Even a man who is at home, I saw a placard of somebody who said she's 37 without a husband. Saying a bad government cause
Is that anger?
Is that anger?
I'm coming.
You remember how
That is a different type of
someone.
You are bringing a different type of hunger. That's the thing.
Okay, hold on. I was only trying to pass the rule of attribution. Now, the frustration aggression theory will tell you that people want to attribute whatever. Even the things they should be responsible for. But simply because they can lay it somewhere, they just transfer. So it is possible for people in the community to have a tendency to go the other way. And by the time you say, no, don't protest, they will tell you that our president also protested in his own time. He led the protest. So I spoke to a minister before the protest, like a week. And I said I was expecting the president to address the nation. If they insist after engagement, if they insist on going ahead, maybe 2 days or a day before, and say, people, my democratic principles will be put to test here. You have the right. But these things you're protesting about, these are the things I'm doing on these things. If I wasn't doing anything, you can protest. But because I'm already addressing these issues through A, B, C, D programs, there will be no need for you to protest. And these are the times we expect us to get results. However, if you insist on protesting, my primary job is to protect lives and property. So please ensure that the organizer should ensure that no single disruption of lives and property. If we notice that anywhere, we will declare curfew immediately. See, governance at some point is not a popularity contest. You take the decision you need to take for the interest of the larger majority. Now, if you check the numbers of those protesting, they can't be up to the numbers of those who are not, who are in their different. Now, have you considered that woman who rely on appearing on the roadside daily to roast corn to feed the family?
Yeah.
Have you considered the farmer who
yesterday and today?
Yes, who has already harvested the tomato, but there's no way to sell. He can't sell, and
go bad.
Of course, they will go bad. So those people are the ones that will bear the brunt. Have you considered the man that needs to ride Okada daily to feed? You and I can afford to stock our houses, our kitchen for the next 1 week, 2 weeks, even for months. But these people cannot. Now, if we are able to pass the message across that come, because of these ones, do not disrupt, and you give the warnings ahead, I am sure that the organizer will tell them that, come, the president said if he notices this, that they will catch also and they will ban this protest. Maybe that would have curbed it in the first instance. Now, that may not be a conventional approach, but because of the situation we find ourselves, there is no one-size-fits-all approach in cases. You only address issues based on the circumstances. So, knowing well that this is what we are prone to, is a black man disease from here to Kenya to South Africa, even go to America. Once there's protest, those who loot are always the black. We know this already. So let's be able to create a system, to ensure that we curb that. You know that this will happen. So if you know that you can't stop the protest, let's take the option B, number one. Number two, now it is easier to blame some people and say don't protest. Now let's also focus on the government. Now, I started listening to some few things the government, what they have done, and I'm saying, so what we've been shouting this since last year, that this government has a job, not just to communicate very well. We should somehow ensure that we de-emphasize this top to bottom approach. Let's take it bottom to top approach to communication. We shouted this even on the program. I think it was in Lagos. We sat in the studio and we said this government has the job of communicating much more than programs. Now, during the election, the president told us that the town hall was better, and we agreed. I defended that statement. Now, after he's in already, what happens to that town hall?
Explaining your programs.
Talking to people regularly. What happens to quarterly review of what you're doing? What happens to if you can't do monthly review, quarterly? Now, what exactly is the office of the SDF doing that is supposed to coordinate the activities of the government? Set the KPIs. Let's be able to measure performance, deliveries, and the targets you are not, meeting. Review immediately and get things done. So, for me, I think that we can blame the people for being angry, yes. But again, let's also say the government, they need to do better in talking to people. Do stakeholders management.
Right.
Do community relations. Please, I'm coming.
Our time.
Yes. If the government is able to do this, there will be less anger because you said, please give us time. Sacrifice for us. But they see that you are not sacrificing. We can't be subsidizing the government and you take the one that belongs to the people and you say they should not angry. So the anger is valid provided that the government has done what they did.
Jude, quickly, let's look at the conduct of our security agencies. The Inspector General briefed the press yesterday. The Chief of Defense Staff briefed the press today. Let's look at their conduct before, during, and this protests. So far, how would you assess their conduct?
First, let me say people have the right to be angry, but they have no right to loot. And they have no right in the exercise of hunger to destroy government buildings and steal people's things.
Yeah.
You go into a rice mill and you started stealing their things. In some cases, after stealing, you set the place ablaze. You've robbed people of their means of livelihood.
That right means it's a private concern,
yes,
not government.
Yes. Even if it belongs to government, they have no right to do that. People were stealing. They were stealing fertilizers and all that. You know, so this is the point. Why some of us felt, look, don't do this thing in this way. Confine yourself. They talk about President Tinubu doing protests. Was he not confined to the current, Freedom Square? Was that not where it was done? Did they block the roads? Did they stop people from bringing food into Lagos as they did during NSAS? Even this last one, they were blocking highways. And I've said some of the countries that you talk about, great countries of the world, in the UK, they jailed people for blocking road during protests. Let them check. Just recently, they jailed them. People have been sentenced to 5 years in jail. You have no right to block a road during protest. The same right that you have to protest, others have a right to not protest.
As several Nigerian youths continue to troop to the streets for the nationwide protest over economic hardship, the impact is taking a toll on the economic itself. As the protests enter day 4, President Bola Tinubu has called on the organizers to end the protests and embrace dialogue. In a nationwide broadcast, President Tinubu warned citizens against ethnic bigotry and divisive rhetorics in the guise of protests. Let's hear from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
The families and relations of those who have died in the protest. We must stop further bloodshed, violence and destruction. As the president of this country, I must ensure public order in line with the constitutional oath to protect the lives and property of every citizen. Our government will not stand idly by and allow a few with a clear political agenda to tear this nation apart. Under the circumstances, I hereby enjoin protesters and the organizers to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue, which I have always acceded to at the slightest opportunity. Nigeria requires all hands on deck and it owes all.
President Tinubu coming out to address the nation.
Yes. We expected him to address the nation. I knew that at some point to speak to the Nigerian people, either in form of a media chat, which I believe he should find the time to do.
We've not seen one.
We've not seen him do a media chat. And
since he came.
This president, if he can do several hours of fake meeting, is more than capable to do the media chat. It's about time, because some of the issues that the media chat will bring up, the presidential address will not bring it up.
Now in the straight jacketed.
You need follow-up.
There will be a lot of follow-ups that will make revelations to come, especially in an administration that will believe their ministers are not talking enough about some of the progress being made. So that is that. I don't want to go too much into that, but I found what he said, some of what he said, interesting. The president said, I understand the pain and frustration that drives these protests. I want to assure you that our government is committed to listening and addressing the concerns of the citizens. But we must not let violence and destruction tear us apart. And he talks about the fact that he has injected 50 billion more into the student loan scheme. He also talked about what they are doing to stimulate agri-production by importing multi-billion-dollar equipment for mechanized farming. Yes, which is what we've always asked for. Help these farmers to tractorize their fields, give them high-yield seedlings, make fertilizer available. If you watch the documentary that I did on Irish potato farming in Plateau State, they all were asking for fertilizers. We must make fertilizer available for our people if we truly want to stimulate agri production. And then the president talked about cultivating 10 million hectares of land. I believe that this has to be done. We have not cultivated enough of our arable land. I don't think that we cultivated more than up to even 25% of the arable land in our country. I mean, that's a big opportunity there. So we hope that things will change for the better. The pains that the people are going through, the president must find a way to reduce those pains. Prices of food, especially must come down. No matter what the president is doing in the area of infrastructure, student loan and all that, if he doesn't find a way to bring down food prices, people will say he has not done anything.
Dr. Sonny,
yes,
stop the protest.
Well, I believe that the message has been delivered by the protesters. And I fear that the more the protests linger, the more some elements will try to cash in and cause mayhem in the land. I speak based on my experience on Wednesday.
We'll talk
If
about
not for the intervention of the military on the highway, I don't know if I would have gone home alive on Wednesday. On the highway, from the city center to Gwarimpa, I was blocked on the highway by weapons-wielding boys. And I had no option than to drive through the blockade. And they saw that I was serious because it was between life and death. And many other people were attacked. So the message has been delivered that things are hard, things are tough. And I believe the president has heard. I believe the government has heard. And something urgent needs to be done.
All right. Joining us for more discussion on this issue is the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu. Thank you for joining us, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you for hanging out with us, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister.
So, what do you make of the protests generally since it started last Wednesday?
Well, good afternoon, and I wish that you are having a happy Sunday afternoon. Before what I make of the protest, one has to appreciate that today our president spoke in a very statesmanly, not surprisingly, statesmanly, nationalistic, compassionate manner. And a leader who takes responsibility and who has called on all to appreciate the challenges, to sympathize with those who lost their lives and properties, and also commend those who behaved responsibly while giving warning to those who are hiding behind the desire of a segment of society to express themselves to cause mayhem. And in addition, summarizing a key number of initiatives that have been put in place by this government. We are not where we want to be. So that's, he said as much, but it is getting better. Governor Charles Soludo, the Anambra State governor, went as far as suggesting that President Ahmed Bola Tinubu inherited a dead economy, So today, that dead economy is breathing, and that is why the allusion, let us not starve it of oxygen. The protesters have been hard. All of us, public officials who have been mandated by Mr. President in various ministries, departments, and agencies have been listening attentively throughout the period. Hear the arguments, the message, and to incorporate it into what more we can do differently, how we can calibrate